Taemin was under the atmospheric processor when his communicator buzzed. He ignored it. The processor on Platform 7 had been acting strange for 3 days, and he was finally close to finding the problem. His hands were covered in grease, and sweat dripped down his face in the humid maintenance tunnel. The communicator buzzed again, then again. "What?" he said, not bothering to hide his annoyance. "Kang Taemin, this is Admiral Park G1. You need to come to the command center immediately." Taemin froze. An admiral was calling him directly. That never happened to maintenance engineers. "Is something wrong with the fleet systems?" he asked. "No, this is about something else. Come now." The line went dead. Taemin climbed out of the tunnel and cleaned his hands as best he could. He was 34 years old and had been fixing things on New Busan Colony for 6 years. Before that, he had worked on Earth, in the old industrial district near Seoul. He was good at his job. He understood how systems worked, how to find problems, how to make broken things work again. But he had never spoken to an admiral before. The command center was at the top of the main tower. Taemin had never been there. The elevator ride took 3 minutes, and his stomach felt tight the entire time. When the doors opened, he saw Admiral Park Ji-won standing by the large window that looked out over the colony. She was tall and slim with gray hair pulled back tight. Her uniform was perfect. She looked old, but Taemin knew that meant nothing. People could live for hundreds of years now if they had the money and the technology. "Kang Taemin," she said without turning around. "Do you know why I called you here?" "No, Admiral." "Have you ever heard of the Celestial Conclave?" Taemin thought for a moment. "The old gods? The beings that control most of the galaxy? I thought they were just stories?" Ji-won finally turned to face him. Her eyes were dark and serious. "They are very real. They have existed for millions of years. They are beings of pure energy who transcended physical form long ago. They rule over thousands of species across thousands of dimensions." Taemin said nothing. He did not understand why she was telling him this. Every 1,000 years, the Conclave holds a contest called the Trial of Ascension. They invite different species to send a champion. The champion who wins can elevate their entire species to a higher plane of existence. Humanity has never been invited before. She paused. Until now. The words hung in the air. Taemin felt his mouth go dry. "I don't understand," he said. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I have chosen you to be humanity's champion." Taemin laughed. It was a nervous, awkward sound. "Admiral, I'm just an engineer. I fix machines. I'm not a warrior or a scientist or a leader. You have the wrong person." "No," Ji-won said firmly. "I have exactly the right person. I have watched you for 2 years. I have read every report about your work. You solve problems that others say cannot be solved. You see patterns that others miss. You find simple solutions to complex situations. That is what humanity needs. But there must be thousands of better candidates. People who are smarter, stronger, more experienced. Smart people will try to outthink the gods. Strong people will try to overpower them. Experienced leaders will try to negotiate or use strategy." Ji-won walked closer to him. "All of them will fail because they will play by the Conclave's rules. You will win because you don't even know what the rules are. You will just see problems and fix them." Taemin shook his head. "I can't. I have my work here. My sister Haiwan is on Earth. I'm not the person you need." "Your sister is exactly why you are the person we need," Ji-won said quietly. "The Conclave has deemed humanity interesting but unlikely to survive the next 1,000 years. If we do not win this contest, we will be left to fade away while other species evolve beyond us. Your sister, everyone you know, everyone who will ever be born human will face a universe that has moved past them. Is that what you want for Haiwan?" Taemin thought of his sister. She was 26 now, teaching children in the farming communities on Earth. She sent him messages every week, telling him about her students, about the gardens she was growing, about her simple, happy life. She did not know about cosmic politics or ancient gods. She just lived. "If I say yes," Taemin said slowly, "what happens? You will be taken to the Nexus, a pocket dimension where the contest takes place. You will face 5 trials against champions from other species. Some of them have been preparing for centuries. Some of them have powers you cannot imagine. If you win, humanity ascends. If you lose, we fade. And if I say no, I will find someone else. But I believe you are our best chance." Taemin looked out the window at the colony below. People were going about their lives, working, eating, laughing, not knowing that their future was being decided. He thought about running. He thought about refusing. He thought about all the ways this was insane. Then he thought about Haewon's last message. She had sent him a picture of a flower one of her students had given her. The message said, "Look at this. Isn't life beautiful?" "When do we leave?" Taemin asked. Ji-won allowed herself a small smile. "Now." The Nexus was not like anything Taemin had ever seen. It was a space that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. Colors moved in ways that hurt to look at. Sounds came from directions that did not exist. When he arrived, he saw the other champions waiting. There was a being made entirely of light. There was a creature that looked like liquid metal. There was something that might have been a warrior, but stood 3 times as tall as any human. There were things he could not even begin to describe. They all looked at him. Taemin felt very small and very human. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere, deep and ancient and tired. "Welcome, champions, to the trial of ascension. I am the Primus, eldest of the conclave. I have witnessed 40,000 of these contests." A figure appeared before them. It looked almost human, but wrong in ways Taemin could not name. Its eyes were empty of everything except boredom. "You will face 5 trials," the Primus continued. "Strength, wisdom, will, creation, destruction, 5 different realities to test 5 different aspects of power. Most of you will fail. One of you will elevate your species beyond mortality itself." The Primus's gaze swept over the champions and stopped on Taemin. For just a moment, something flickered in those empty eyes. Interest, maybe, or curiosity. "Let the trial begin," the Primus said. Taemin stood among beings that were like gods, and he was just a human who fixed broken things. But as he looked around at the impossible space and the impossible champions, he thought about his work. Every machine, no matter how complex, was just a system. Every system had patterns. Every pattern had weaknesses. Maybe gods were just another kind of machine. Maybe he could find out how they worked. The first trial began without warning. One moment, Taemin was standing in the Nexus, and the next he was falling through a reality that was tearing itself apart. The Primus's voice echoed around them. "The trial of strength. You must carry a fragment of a dying star to the safe zone before this dimension collapses completely. You have 1 hour." Taemin hit the ground hard. Above him, the sky was breaking. Pieces of reality were falling like glass, and where they fell, everything simply stopped existing. In the distance, he could see a massive piece of something that glowed with impossible heat. The star fragment. It was the size of a building. The other champions were already moving. The being of light wrapped itself around the fragment and began pulling with pure energy. The liquid metal creature tried to absorb it. The tall warrior lifted it onto his shoulders and started walking, each step shaking the ground. Taemin stood still and watched. He was not strong enough to lift that thing. He did not have energy powers or special abilities, but he had spent years understanding systems, and every system had patterns. He watched the dimension collapse. At first, it seemed random. Reality was breaking everywhere, but as Taemin watched, he saw it. The collapse was spreading in waves, like ripples in water. There were spaces between the waves, quiet zones where the dimension was stable for a few seconds longer. He started running, not toward the star fragment, but along the edge of a quiet zone. Other champions were using their power to fight the collapse, creating shields and barriers. They were burning energy fast. Taemin just ran, timing his movements to stay in the safe spaces. When he reached the fragment, the other champions had barely moved it a few meters. They were exhausted, pouring all their strength into fighting reality itself. Taemin studied the fragment. It was not sitting on the ground. It was floating, held in place by the dimension's dying gravity. He found a piece of broken reality, something solid, and wedged it underneath. The fragment shifted slightly. Then he waited. The collapse wave came closer, and just as it reached the fragment, Taemin used the piece to lever the fragment into the wave's path. The collapsing reality pushed the fragment forward like a current pushing a boat. Taemin ran alongside it, using small adjustments to keep it moving in the right direction. He was not carrying the fragment. The dimension's own death was moving it for him. He reached the safe zone first, with 10 minutes to spare. He was sweating and tired, but not exhausted like the other champions. The Primus appeared, and for the first time his voice sounded less bored. Interesting. The human wins through efficiency, not strength. The second trial was different. They stood in a white space with nothing in it except a creature that looked like it was made of eyes and knowledge. The Oracle of Infinite Questions. The Trial of Wisdom, the Primus announced. The Oracle will ask you a riddle. Answer correctly and you pass. The riddle adapts to defeat any answer. 3 champions have already tried. 3 have failed. Taemin watched as a champion who looked like a floating brain approached the Oracle. This being had studied for 500 years, preparing for this moment. The Oracle asked, "What is the truth that contains all other truths?" The champion answered with a complex philosophical argument. The Oracle listened, then said, "Your answer assumes truth is singular, but if truth is plural, your answer is false. You fail." Another champion tried. Another failed. Each answer was defeated by the Oracle's ability to redefine the question. When it was Taemin's turn, he walked up to the Oracle and waited. "What is the truth that contains all other truths?" the Oracle asked. Taemin thought about his work. When a machine did not work, sometimes the problem was not in the machine. Sometimes the problem was in what people thought the machine should do. "I have a question for you first," Taemin said. "Why do you ask questions that you already know cannot be answered?" The Oracle went still. All its eyes focused on Taemin. "I ask questions to test wisdom," it said. "But if no answer can be right, then the question is not testing wisdom. It is just proving that you can always move the goal. That is not wisdom. That is just a trick." The silence stretched out. Then the Oracle did something it had never done before. It laughed. "You are correct," it said. "I have been asking the wrong questions for millennia. True wisdom is not having answers. It is knowing which questions matter. You pass." The third trial was the worst. Taemin found himself stretched across 1 billion minds. He was a tiny drop in an ocean of consciousness, and the ocean was dissolving him. He could feel himself spreading out, becoming nothing, losing everything that made him himself. "The trial of will," the Primus's voice came from far away. "Maintain your sense of self while dispersed across the Gestalt consciousness. Most last minutes. The record is 4 hours. Taemin tried to hold on. He tried to remember his name, his face, his life. But it was like trying to hold water in his hands. Everything was slipping away. He saw other champions in the ocean of minds. A telepathic being who had seemed so confident was already gone, absorbed into the whole. The ancient warrior was fighting hard, but even his will was fading. Taemin was losing. He could feel it. In a few more seconds, he would be nothing. Then he stopped fighting. If he could not hold on to everything, he would hold on to one thing, just one. The smallest thing he could remember, his sister's laugh. Not her face, not her voice, not even her name. Just the sound of her laughing at something funny. A moment from when they were children, sitting under a tree on Earth, and she had laughed at a joke he had made. That was it. That was all he kept. He let everything else dissolve into the billion minds. His name went. His memories went. His thoughts went. But that one small sound, that laugh, stayed. The billion minds touched it. They examined it. They had forgotten what it was like to be individual, to have a moment that belonged to just one person. The laugh was so small, so simple, so temporary, but it was real. Slowly, the minds began to pull back. They gave Taimin space. They helped him reform, pulling pieces back together around that single memory. When Taimin opened his eyes, he was himself again. But he was different. Parts of the Gestalt had come with him, fundamentally changed by touching something that was uniquely his. The Primus looked at him with something that might have been surprise. You survived 5 hours, but more than that, you changed the Gestalt itself. That has never happened before. Admiral Park Ji-won was watching from the human observation deck, a room that floated at the edge of the Nexus where she could see the trials. She had been holding her breath. 3 trials, she whispered to herself. He won 3 trials. Around the Nexus, the remaining champions were gathering. There were 5 left, including Tae-min. They looked at the human with new eyes. At first, they had dismissed him, a weak being from a weak species, but now they understood. He was not winning through power. He was winning by changing the rules of what winning meant. A champion made of crystallized time approached Taimin. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. How are you doing this? You have no training, no cosmic power, no ancient knowledge. Taimin looked at the being. He was exhausted, his body and mind pushed beyond anything he had experienced before. But he thought about Haiwan, about the people on New Busan, about all the humans who did not know their future hung on these trials. I am an engineer, he said simply. I see problems. I fix them. Your trials are just problems. Different from fixing machines, but problems all the same. The crystallized time being made a sound that might have been respect or might have been fear. 2 trials remained. Creation and destruction. Taemin had no idea how he was going to face them, but he knew he would try, because that was what humans did. They tried, even when the universe said they could not win. The Primus watched Taemin walk away, and for the first time in thousands of years, he felt something he had thought was gone forever. Curiosity. What would this small mortal creature do next? Taemin stood in front of a creation interface that looked like a hole in reality itself. Through it, he could shape matter, energy, time, and space. He could create a universe. The trial of creation, the Primus announced. Each champion will create a universe. Not a small dimension, but a true universe with its own physical laws, capable of sustaining life until its natural heat death. We will judge based on complexity, stability, and beauty. Taemin watched as the first champion began. The being of pure light, called a luminar, created a dimension that shimmered with mathematical perfection. Inside it, consciousness existed as harmonic frequencies that sang through walls of pure energy. It was beautiful, complex, and would last forever. The next champion, a representative of the Void Singers, crafted something even more impressive. 7 realities nested inside each other, each layer with different physical laws that supported the next. Life could evolve through all 7 layers, becoming more complex at each level. The whole thing was a masterpiece of cosmic engineering. The third champion, called the Eternal Architect, built a universe that mirrored mathematics itself, Every particle, every force, every moment of time was part of an equation that described absolute truth. It was the most perfect thing Timon had ever seen. Then it was his turn. Timon stood before the interface for a long time. He understood systems, yes. He could see patterns. But these champions had knowledge of reality itself that humanity would not gain for millions of years. He could not build something more complex than beings who had studied the fabric of existence for eons. He thought about giving up. He thought about trying to copy what he had seen and just hoping for the best. He thought about all the ways he was not enough for this task. Then he remembered something. A conversation with Hai Wan from years ago. She had been 7 years old and they had been in a garden on Earth. She had asked him why flowers had to die. He had explained about cycles, about how nothing lasted forever, about how the temporary nature of things made them precious. She had cried a little, then picked the flower anyway and put it in her hair. "I like it even more now," she had said, "because I know it will not last forever." Timon looked at the interface and made a decision. He created a universe that would only last 10,000 years. It was smaller than the others, simpler. He did not try to make it mathematically perfect or infinitely complex. Instead, he built in something that none of the other champions had considered: true randomness. He set up the basic laws of physics, the fundamental forces, the conditions for matter to form. But then he added chaos variables, quantum uncertainty, true unpredictability. His universe could surprise even him. He seeded it with the conditions for life, but did not design the life itself. He let it emerge naturally from the chaos. Then he added one more thing, something he knew the Conclave would think was a flaw. He gave his universe free will. Not predetermined paths or calculated choices, but genuine freedom to choose. The beings that might arise in his universe could make their own decisions, could create their own meaning, could shape their own existence. Then Timon accelerated time and watched. At first, nothing happened, just energy and matter swirling in the void. Then slowly stars formed, planets condensed, chemistry began. After 3,000 years of compressed time, life appeared. Simple at first, just single cells that consumed and replicated. But it evolved. It grew more complex. After 5,000 years, intelligent life emerged on 17 different worlds. They were all different. Some were peaceful, some were aggressive. Some built great civilizations. Some destroyed themselves in wars. Some created art, music, philosophy. Some only cared about survival. Timon watched civilizations rise and fall. He watched beings discover love, create beauty, experience suffering. He watched them ask questions about why they existed, what their purpose was, whether anything mattered. His universe was messy. It was chaotic. Terrible things happened in it. Wars, disasters, suffering. But beautiful things happened too. Moments of kindness, acts of courage, simple joy. At 7,000 years, one civilization discovered how to look beyond their own world. They sent messages into space, asking if anyone was listening. They never got an answer, but they kept trying anyway. At 9,000 years, the universe began to cool. Entropy was winning. The stars were dying. The civilizations that remained knew their time was ending. But they did not give up. They created monuments, left messages, recorded their stories. They wanted to be remembered, even if no one would be there to remember them. At 10,000 years, the last star went dark. The universe Timon had created ended. Silence fell over the Nexus. The Primus spoke first. The human's universe has ended. All others remain eternal. By the measure of longevity, the human has created the weakest universe. The other champions seemed to relax. They had been worried, but surely the judges would not reward a universe that had already died. Then a voice came from the Conclave, one of the other ancient beings. but it was the only universe where beings created meaning rather than existing within predetermined beauty. It was the only universe where consciousness asked why. Another voice joined. The Luminar's universe is perfect, but nothing in it can change. The Void Singer's universe is complex, but all paths are calculated. The Architect's universe is truth itself, but truth without interpretation. Only the human's universe had beings who could choose to create their own purpose. The debate continued. The conclave was divided. Some argued that eternal perfection was the highest achievement. Others argued that temporary meaning was greater than permanent emptiness. Finally, the Primus raised his hand for silence. As the eldest, his vote would break the tie. He looked at Tae-min for a long moment. Those ancient, empty eyes seemed to see something they had not seen in millennia. I have watched civilizations rise and fall across 40,000 contests, the Primus said slowly. I have seen universes of infinite complexity and eternal duration. They are magnificent, they are perfect, and they are ultimately meaningless. He gestured to the space where Tae-min's universe had existed. This human created something that will never exist again. Those beings lived, loved, suffered, and died, and their universe died with them. Every moment they had was precious because it would not last. They created meaning because they knew they were temporary. The Primus turned to address the full conclave. Every universe we have judged today will exist forever, unchanging, perfect, and ultimately without purpose. But only one will matter, the one that dared to die. He looked back at Tae-min. The human wins the trial of creation. Tae-min felt his legs go weak. He had not expected to win. He had just created what felt true to him, what felt human. The idea that it was enough seemed impossible. The other champions were silent, the crystallized time being moved closer to Tae-min. You did not try to compete with us, it said. You created something we could never imagine. Why? Tae-min thought about his answer. Because you are gods, or close to it. You think in terms of forever. But I am human. We think in terms of now. We make things that matter to us, even if they do not last. Maybe especially because they do not last. Admiral Park Ji-won watched from the observation deck. She was crying, something she had not done in 100 years. She had chosen correctly. Tae-min was not winning by becoming like the gods. He was winning by remaining utterly, completely human. One trial remained: destruction. And for the first time, the other champions understood what they were facing. Humanity did not play by the rules because humans did not believe the rules were real. They just saw problems and found ways to solve them, even if the solution seemed impossible to everyone else. The Primus looked at Tae-min and felt something stir in his ancient consciousness. This mortal creature had created something that would haunt him forever, a universe that had meaning because it ended. What would the human do when asked to destroy? The final trial began with a view that made Tae-min's stomach turn. Before them was a universe, but it was wrong in every possible way. Even looking at it caused pain. The trial of destruction, the Primus announced. Before you is a corrupted reality. It is a universe where suffering has become the fundamental force. Every conscious being within it exists only to experience eternal torment. Your task is to destroy it completely, to unmake existence itself. The Primus gestured to the twisted universe. This is a mercy. These beings cannot die naturally. They cannot escape. The only kindness is total annihilation. Show us you have the power to end existence itself. The Luminar went first. It gathered energy from across dimensions and unleashed an antimatter cascade that should have ripped the universe apart. The corrupted reality absorbed the attack and used it to create more suffering. The Luminar retreated, exhausted. The Void Singers tried next. They attempted to collapse the universe into a singularity, to crush it into nothing. But the universe resisted. The more they attacked, the stronger it became. Suffering itself had become a stabilizing force. The Eternal Architect tried to override the universe's fundamental constants, to change the rules that allowed it to exist. But the corruption ran deeper than physics. It was woven into the very concept of existence in that space. Each champion failed. The universe could not be destroyed. Then it was Taemin's turn. "I want to go inside," he said. The other champions turned to stare at him. The Primus tilted his head. "Inside? That would be unwise. The suffering within is beyond mortal comprehension. I need to see it, to understand it. You cannot fix something if you do not know how it works." Admiral Park Ji-won's voice came through his communicator. "Taemin, no. We can find another way. You do not need to experience that." "Yes, I do," Taemin said quietly. "Because destroying something without understanding it is just violence. And if I learned anything from the trial of creation, it is that I need to see things differently than the others." Before anyone could stop him, Taemin stepped through the barrier and into the corrupted universe. The pain was immediate and total. It was not physical pain, though his body screamed. It was the pain of existence itself. Every thought hurt. Every breath was agony. Time moved wrong, making each second last forever. He could feel the suffering of billions of beings, all trapped in eternal torment, all unable to die, all unable to escape. Taemin wanted to scream, to run, to escape back through the barrier, but he forced himself to stay, to observe, to look past the pain and see the structure underneath. He spent 3 days inside that universe. 3 days that felt like years. Admiral Park Ji-won begged him to come back. The other champions thought he had gone mad. Even the Primus seemed disturbed by this choice. But Taemin stayed because he was starting to see it. The pattern. The system. On the 3rd day, he stumbled back through the barrier and collapsed. His body was shaking, his mind barely holding together. But he understood now. "It is not a naturally corrupted universe," he said, his voice rough. "The Conclave created it. You made it as a test thousands of years ago. The suffering is artificial, maintained by a single algorithm, a loop of negative feedback that sustains itself." The Primus did not deny it. "Yes, we created it to test the power of destruction. Only by completely annihilating it can the suffering end. Can you do it?" Taemin stood up slowly. He walked to the interface that connected to the corrupted universe. The other champions watched, expecting him to gather power, to prepare some massive attack. Instead, Taemin reached into the universe and changed one thing. One tiny variable in the algorithm. He introduced hope, not as a force or energy, but as an idea. A simple equation that allowed for the possibility of change. Just the mathematical possibility that things could be different. It was the smallest change possible. But in a universe built entirely on the certainty of eternal suffering, it was revolutionary. The hope spread like a virus through the corrupted universe. It created cracks in the algorithm. The beings trapped in eternal torment began, impossibly, to imagine something else. They began to think that maybe, somehow, this could end. That imagination became real. The universe did not explode. It did not collapse. It transformed. Suffering remained, but now it was temporary. Pain existed, but now it served a purpose. Death became possible, which meant life gained meaning. The eternal torment became temporary hardship. The universe healed itself. Taemin watched as the corrupted reality reorganized into something that was still harsh, still difficult, but no longer impossible. It was not perfect, but it was no longer hell. The Nexus was completely silent. Finally, the Primus spoke, and his voice was different. The boredom was gone, replaced by something that might have been awe or might have been fear. You were supposed to prove you had the power to destroy. Instead, you proved something far more dangerous. You proved you have the wisdom to choose not to. He floated closer to Taemin. Why did you not destroy it? You saw the suffering. You experienced it yourself. Why not end it? Taemin looked at the ancient being. He was exhausted beyond anything he had ever known. His body hurt, his mind hurt, his soul hurt, but he knew why he had done what he did. Because destruction is easy, he said. Anyone with enough power can destroy. But fixing something, healing something, that is harder. That requires understanding. That requires caring. He thought about his work on New Busan, fixing broken atmospheric processors. When something is broken, my first instinct is never to throw it away. It is to understand why it broke and how to fix it. That universe was broken. So I fixed it. But the beings inside suffered for millennia, another champion said. Would it not have been kinder to end them? Maybe, Taemin admitted. But who am I to decide that their existence should end? They did not ask to be destroyed. They just wanted the suffering to stop. So I stopped the suffering instead. The Primus turned to the conclave. The human has completed 5 trials, 4 victories, and 1 that broke the very concept of the trial itself. By the ancient laws, humanity has earned the right to ascension. The gathered beings of cosmic power murmured among themselves. This had never happened before. A mortal species, one of the youngest in the galaxy, had defeated champions who had trained for centuries. But the Primus held up his hand. However, I propose something unprecedented. I offer the human, as representative of his species, a choice. Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. What choice? Every species that has won the trial of ascension has chosen to evolve beyond physical form, to join the conclave, to become like us. It is always chosen because physical existence seems limiting after witnessing cosmic power. The Primus's empty eyes fixed on Taemin. I offer humanity the same choice. Ascend and become immortal, infinite, eternal, or remain as you are, mortal and limited. Why is this a choice? Taemin asked. Why not just give us ascension? Because you have taught me something, human. You have shown that limitations can have value, that mortality can create meaning, that the temporary can be more precious than the eternal. The Primus's voice was soft, almost sad. I want to know what humanity will choose. Admiral Park Ji-won's voice came through the communicator, urgent. Taemin, this is not a decision you should make alone. This is the future of our entire species. I know, Taemin said. I need time to think. The Primus nodded. You have 1 week. Then you will give humanity's answer. As the Nexus faded and Taemin returned to the observation deck, he realized something. He had faced 5 impossible trials and survived. But this choice, this simple question of what humanity should become, might be the hardest challenge of all. Admiral Park Ji-won was waiting for him. She looked old, truly old, for the first time since he had met her. What will you choose? She asked. I do not know, Taemin said honestly. I need to talk to my sister. Taemin sat alone in his quarters on the observation deck. He had 1 week to make a decision that would affect every human who would ever live. The weight of it made it hard to breathe. Admiral Park Ji-won entered without knocking. She carried 2 cups of tea and handed one to him. I thought you might need company, she said. Taemin took the tea gratefully. How am I supposed to decide this? Who am I to choose for everyone? Ji-won sat down across from him. She was quiet for a moment, then spoke. Can I tell you something I have never told anyone? Of course. I am 247 years old, she said. Life extension technology has kept me alive far longer than nature intended. I have served in the fleet for over a century. I have seen humanity spread across 3 solar systems. I have seen wonders that would have seemed like magic to my ancestors. She looked down at her tea. But I am tired, Taemin. I have lived so long that I have forgotten what it feels like to be surprised by life. Everything is familiar now. Every sunrise is just another sunrise. Every conversation is just a variation of conversations I have had before. Why are you telling me this? Because I have seen humanity's greatest weakness. We are always trying to become something else, something more. We want to be smarter, stronger, live longer, transcend our limits. We are so busy trying to evolve that we forget to just exist. She looked at him. The conclave is offering us the chance to become gods, but I wonder if we would lose something important in the process. Taemin thought about her words. Then he pulled out his communicator. I need to talk to Haiwan. His sister's face appeared on the screen. She was in her classroom on Earth, with drawings made by children covering the walls behind her. Taemin, she said, smiling. I did not expect to hear from you. Are you okay? I am fine. I just need your advice about something. Over the next hour, he explained everything. The trials, the contest, the choice he had to make. Haiwan listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Do you remember when I was 7? She finally asked. When I asked you why flowers had to die? Yes. I was thinking about that during the trial of creation. You explained about cycles and temporary things being precious. I understood it, but I did not really feel it until I became a teacher. She gestured to the classroom around her. I teach children. Every year I get a new group. I watch them learn, grow, change. Then they move on to the next grade, and I get new students. It used to make me sad, knowing I would lose them. But not anymore. Now I understand that the temporary nature is what makes it meaningful. If I taught the same students forever, it would lose its beauty. The fact that I only have them for 1 year makes every moment matter. Every small achievement, every laugh, every time they understand something new, it is precious because I know it will not last forever. Haiwan leaned closer to the screen. Today, one of my students gave me a flower, a simple wildflower from the field near the school. I knew it would die in a few days, maybe less. But I loved it. I loved it because it was temporary. She paused, her eyes bright. If humanity becomes like the conclave, if we live forever and become gods, will we still be able to love a wildflower? Will anything matter if nothing can end? Taemin felt something click into place. His sister, who had never left Earth, who taught children in a small farming community, had understood something the cosmic beings had forgotten. Thank you, he said softly. Whatever you choose, brother, I trust you. But remember, you are human. Maybe that is enough. The screen went dark. Taemin looked at Admiral Park Ji-won. I know what I have to do. 7 days later, Taemin stood before the Primus and the assembled conclave. The other champions were there too, watching. All of them wanted to know what humanity would choose. Have you made your decision? The Primus asked. I have, Taemin said. His voice was steady. Humanity refuses ascension. The Nexus erupted in shocked voices. No species had ever refused. It was unthinkable. Explain, the Primus said. Taemin took a breath. You have all transcended death, limitation, struggle, and imperfection. You exist forever. You have infinite power and infinite time. But in doing so, you have also transcended meaning. He gestured to the conclave. You exist, but nothing you do matters because nothing can truly change you. You cannot die, so life has no value. You cannot fail, so success has no weight. You cannot be surprised, so discovery has no joy. You have become the universe's observers, not its participants. And humanity chooses differently? The Primus asked. Yes. We choose to remain mortal, limited and flawed. We choose to keep struggling because struggle gives weight to victory. We choose death because it makes life precious. We choose ignorance because discovery has meaning when you do not already know everything. Taemin thought about Haiwan's flower, about the universe he had created that dared to die, about 3 days of suffering in a corrupted reality that taught him the value of temporary peace. "But we ask for one thing in return," he continued. "Leave us alone. Do not guide us. Do not uplift us. Do not interfere. Let us make our own mistakes and find our own path. Give us the dignity of our own failure or success." The Primus was silent for a long moment. Then he did something he had not done in 40,000 years. He laughed. It was a sound of pure joy, of genuine surprise, of something awakening after being asleep for eons. "You have won something greater than ascension," the Primus said. "You have reminded us what we lost. For refusing ultimate power, I grant you something better, complete autonomy. Humanity will be protected by conclave law. No species may interfere with your development. You will face the universe on your own terms." Then the Primus did something that shocked everyone. He began to glow, to change. His form became more solid, more real. "I am stepping down from the conclave," he announced. "I am going back, not as a human, but as something mortal again. I want to remember what it feels like to wonder, to fear, to hope. If humanity can teach the conclave anything, it is that power means nothing without purpose. And eternity is just another word for emptiness." 3 other members of the conclave began to change as well. They were choosing mortality over infinity. The crystallized time being spoke to Taemin one last time. "You entered a contest of gods and taught gods to be mortal again. That is a greater victory than we could have imagined." The galaxy changed that day, not through power or force, but through a simple choice. Dozens of species began questioning their own paths to ascension. Some chose to remain as they were. Some sought ways to return to mortality. Humanity became known not as the species that became gods, but as the species that taught gods to value temporary existence. Taemin returned to New Busan. He declined all promotions, medals, and offers of fame. He went back to fixing atmospheric processors. Admiral Park Ji-won visited him one day, 3 months after the trial. She found him under Platform 7, covered in grease, working on the same processor that had been broken when this all started. "You could have been a god," she said. Taemin climbed out of the maintenance tunnel. He walked to the platform edge and looked at the sunset over the colony. The sky was orange and pink, beautiful and temporary. "I chose something better," he said. "I chose to be human." Ji-won smiled. It was a real smile, the first genuine expression Taemin had seen from her. "You know what? I think I am going to retire. 247 years is long enough. I want to spend whatever time I have left actually living instead of just existing." "That sounds good," Taemin said. In orbit above New Busan, the Primus, now mortal and called simply Sung Ho, began his first life in 50,000 years. He had maybe 80 years left, perhaps less. The thought terrified him. It also made him feel more alive than he had in millennia. He looked down at the colony world where a simple engineer had taught the universe a lesson. He thought about all the things he wanted to experience now that his time was limited. Food, sleep, the simple pleasure of learning something new, the fear of failure, the joy of small victories. He was mortal. He was temporary. He was limited. And for the first time in eternity, he felt like his existence mattered. Across the galaxy, the number of species seeking ascension dropped, the number of species celebrating their existence as they were rose. Taemin sent a message to Haiwan that evening. It was simple. "Thank you for teaching me about flowers." She sent back a picture, a wild flower in a simple vase. The message said, "This one will die tomorrow, but today it is beautiful." Taemin smiled. He saved the picture. A human had entered the contest of the gods and redefined power forever, not as the ability to transcend limits, but as the courage to embrace them, not as the strength to become eternal, but as the wisdom to value the temporary. In a universe obsessed with transcendence, the ultimate rebellion was choosing to stay mortal, to struggle, to fail, to love, to die, because those limitations were what made existence meaningful. And that was the most powerful thing of all.